Hey there, and welcome back to the mini weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's get into it, mini. Drinking the podcast. What do you guys think we're doing tonight? If you guessed Pepsi Nitro Vanilla, you would be correct. This thing opened up insane on me. I definitely feel a little bit, but I'm obviously going to be mature and pick up after myself. So, yeah, truthfully, I can't really talk on this choice quite yet because, unlike, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It wasn't the first time we had it. It was last week with the Heineken Zero. This is my first time ever trying this. So, cheers. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. So, I know it looks like I took a bigger sip than I should have. There was a little bit of foam up there. These Nitros, sorry about that for those that are watching. I had that, it actually got on something, but just clean it up off the table. These Nitro, I don't know that there is that many Nitro sodas out there, but man, these are smooth. Yeah, there may be a little bit more foam on top than you'd like, but for the smoothness of the drink itself, it is well worth it. I'm not going to lie, as far as like drinks are concerned, when we used to do like beers and stuff on the podcast, I was never too keen or too looking forward to like vanilla flavored drinks, just from the aspect of, in my opinion, vanilla syrup kind of adding to that. It just gets too thick. It doesn't mix well. I don't know. It just isn't something that in the past I typically like. This was really good. I don't know if it was part of the fizz. When that first drink I took, tasted a little cinnamony. And I'm not really one for a ton of cinnamon. I actually low key kind of liked it. I'm not really getting any hints of cinnamon anymore. Kind of like a nice thick vanilla. Where have you been my whole life? Yeah, anyways, so I really like this. Their website's being kind of goofy on me tonight. But yeah, we obviously about a month, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, did the original Pepsi Nitro. And they actually have like a website dedicated just to these nitros. It's pepsi.com/nitro. Being goofy on us. But before I opened up the page, it looked like there was a couple cool little recipes that you could have with this. Excuse me, mixing with a couple different things. Super, super excited about. But yeah, made by Pepsi, so you can follow them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, and they also have a YouTube page, just like we do. Excuse me. And yeah, all that kind of fun stuff. I really like it. You know, for something that has like a flavor, like Fanta, like orange soda is orange soda. Um, strawberry soda, strawberry soda. Like to have like a Coke or like a specific kind of Sprite, vanilla, like that kind of stuff. This is probably one of my favorite flavor combinations of soda. Aside from that um, that black cherry soda from, gosh, why am I blanking? Liftbridge. These two natural Pepsis and that so far, in no specific order, have to probably be my top three sodas we've done on the podcast so far. So, yeah, I can't remember what I gave those other two, but this is definitely up there. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9-1. Excuse me. Yeah, a 9-1. So I really like it. And then yeah, that's what we had for the drink of the podcast. Now, before we get into the thick of things tonight, I actually had a question from Tessa. She was wondering, Jack, are you sure there's more merch? So thank you for asking, Tessa. I've been meaning to kind of get back in there. Spoiler alert, there's no date set in stone, but we're working on a couple different designs. Obviously, it seems like a lot of you guys really enjoy like just the normal logo of the mini weekend, and a lot of that stuff going on the site and buying that, but we're working on a couple different designs and some different ideas to do for some clothes and some merch for you guys. So, but on that topic, yes, Tessa. So answering your question, yes and no. So that's how the website works, where I put all this stuff together. I made everything, but didn't publish them all. So, with that said, you can now go to the website, printify.com/mini weekend, and you can get everything like I mentioned. We got coasters, we got tumblers, we got the stickers, we got the car stickers, we have Adidas hoodies, we have phone cases, bigger mugs. We got rid of the 11 ounces ouncers. We got 15-ounce mugs now. Excuse me. You can still get the shirts. You can still get the trucker hats. And then some of the other things we added to were 20-ounce tumblers, the Adidas hoodies, like I mentioned, and then why am I blanking? Oh, and then the last one is a white and a gray. I can't remember when I put them on the website. But they're like a long sleeve kind of crew neck. So go check them out. Let me know what you guys think. And kind of what are your favorites, and maybe what kinds of clothing or accessories you want us to add coming up here, hopefully within the next couple months, with some new designs and stuff like that for you guys. One other quick announcement, and I'll remind you guys at the end of the podcast too. We have some pretty fun podcast. We're getting ready to get into the thick of things as far as the NFL season is concerned. Next week we will have a guest coming on, a first guest on our video podcasts. It'll be really fun. We'll be talking all things sports. Send us questions and topics that you might want us to talk about. And then the week after that, the 22nd, we are firming up details for an interview with a football player, not saying what level it's at, but we got that. And then 3 weeks from now, or just under 3 weeks from now, we're coming at you live for our first live stream episode of the mini weekend on August 28th. Next week I will have a time for you guys to put on your calendar with a guest, and the first live podcast will be the 2024 football preview. So with that, all that good news and stuff coming up here, let's get into it. We actually have some news this week for Tommie Town, and other than just a football team. So the men's basketball program will actually look for another successful run in the Summit League, as they finished 9-7 last season, as they just released just yesterday their 2024-2025 conference schedule. Like I said, just yesterday. The men's team will kick off their Summit League play traveling to Fargo, North Dakota, to take on the Bison on January 2nd, and then we'll trek up to Grand Forks to take on the Fighting Hawks on January 4th. The men's team will then wrap up the Summit League play with a 2-game homestand on February 27th against the Fighting Hawks again, and then the Kansas City Roos on March 1st, before Summit League playoffs get underway. For the men's team, they won't have a road trip longer than 2 consecutive games, while their longest homestand will be 3 games in the middle of January, right after their first 2 games against the SDSU Jackrabbits, the South Dakota Coyotes, the Denver Pioneers, on January 8th, 11th, and 18th, respectively. Excuse me. And then for the women's team, they followed suit, releasing their conference schedule yesterday as well, and will look to improve on their 7-9 conference record from last season. It is also worth noting that this will be the first time in the Division I era that the men and women's Tommie basketball teams will not be playing mirroring schedules. What I mean by that is both teams coming into this season would play the same school on the same day, one of them just being home and one of them being away. So, as an example, let me see here. Perfect last year. I already had it pulled up. So as an example, um, last year both the men and women's teams hosted the North Dakota Fighting Hawks to open up Summit League play on December 29th against North Dakota. The women's team hosted the Fighting Hawks at 1 p.m. on the 29th, while the men's team was in Grand Forks at 7 p.m. Yeah, so with that, the women's team will kick off Summit League play as well on January 2nd, as they will host the Kansas City Roos, then getting a visit from the NDSU Bison on January 4th. Opposite the men's team, um, they will not be at home for more than 2 consecutive Summit League games, but their longest road trip will be 3 games in mid-January as well. They will be in Vermillion, South Dakota to take on the Coyotes on the 9th, Tulsa, Oklahoma for a game against Oral Roberts on the 16th, um, and then Omaha on the 18th for a matchup with University of Nebraska, Omaha. The women's team will then conclude their season when Brookings, South Dakota, for a game against the South Dakota State Jackrabbits on March 1st. And then lastly, both teams, just as a reminder, both men's and women's team will be playing each of the other 8 schools twice during the season, everybody at home and then everybody at their place. And all of those teams are Denver, the University of Missouri, Kansas City, North Dakota State, Omaha, Nebraska, Omaha, Oral Roberts, South Dakota, and South Dakota State. Both the times of the Summit League games as well as non-conference schedules for both teams will be coming at a later date, and you can go to tommiesports.com or for more information and tickets to see both men's and women's basketball teams. And then lastly, for the football team, the preseason accolades just keep coming for the team, as 9 Tommies earlier this week found themselves named to the Phil Steele preseason All Pioneer Football League team back on August 2nd. Senior running back Hope Adebayo, senior offensive lineman Alec Rasmussen, and senior linebacker Luke Herzog all found themselves on the first team. Senior offensive lineman Brock Stanek and Langston Robinson found themselves on the second team. And then junior tight end Matthew Rink, senior fullback Landon Reed, senior defensive back Nick Hand, and 5th-year defensive lineman Brock Livingston all got themselves on the third team, which is huge. So a huge congratulations to all 9 of them. Not easy accolades to get, and honestly well deserved. Can't wait to see what this team can do in a couple weeks here, as they will open up at home against Sioux Falls. Yeah, Sioux Falls. So yeah, that's what we have for you guys for Tommie Town. And then getting into our first question of the night, and before we get into our professional sports, beloved professional sports, I'm coming at you guys with an Olympic update, as we are now down, because we're 6 hours behind Paris. Excuse me, yeah, behind them. So February, Thursday, August 8th has concluded over there. So there's only 9th, 10th, and 11th, 3 days left of the Olympics. And with 3 days left, guys, the U.S. is superior. We are leading all medal leaders. The United States has 103 total medals. Second place is China with 73, and then France is in third with 54. Great Britain with 51, and then rounding with the top 5, Australia with 45. And also at the end of today, we lead in every category. We have 30 gold medals, 38 silver medals, and 35 bronze medals. So a huge congratulations. And then to highlight some of the actual medal getters, so swimmer Zhang Yufik Chinese swimmer, is actually in lone place of first with 6. She's got 1 silver and 5 bronze. But swimmers, Regan Smith and Tori Husky are tied together with 1, 2, 3, 4 other players or 4 other athletes with 5 apiece. Tori Husky has 3 golds and 2 silvers, while Regan Smith has 2 golds and 3 silvers. Simone Biles is one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total athletes with 4. 3 of those are gold medals. And it's worth noting Husky and Simone Biles are both tied with as the Americans with the most gold. So a huge congratulations to them on that. And then before we get into our first question, some events to kind of look forward to, again, depending on when you watch or listen to this, tomorrow or later today. Gosh, why does this load so goofy for me? Excuse me. So at 8:35 a.m., the men's semifinal water polo will take on Serbia. At 10 a.m. These are all Eastern time, sorry. 10 a.m. Eastern time, the men's bronze medal match against Italy for volleyball will take place. At 11:30 a.m., the women's semifinal basketball game will take on against Australia. At noon Eastern Standard Time, our men's gold medal match, France and Spain. And then wrapping up tomorrow at 3:45 p.m., men's 400 hurdles final will take place. And then just earlier today, the men came from behind, losing by as many as 17 points against Serbia in the semifinals and entering the fourth quarter down 13 points. Came back and have a date on, I think it's Saturday, the 11th, with France for the whole enchilada. So should be an interesting game, especially with Joel Embiid being born in France. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of attention on him, a lot of booing when he touched the ball, and all that fun stuff that comes with that. So should be super fun to watch. Today's game was honestly intense. I will be the first to admit. I kind of had it on in the background today as I was trying to get some work done and some things done. And there were times that I was looking at the scoreboard and we were giving up turnovers. We were missing shots that I was just like, you know what? No, I got to turn this off for a little bit. But once the fourth quarter happened, I saw us get it down to, I think, 9 points with about 8 or so minutes to play. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ride this out to the end. And or at least listening to it. And thank God I did. Wow, what an ending. What an ending. Really, really insane. And on that topic brings us to our one of 2 questions today. I had someone ask me, and I was talking with this person today, and we got to talking, and essentially he's not much of a basketball fan. But he must have been on Netflix a couple nights ago. He enjoys watching the Olympics, and he did mention that occasionally he will divulge into basketball at the Olympic, national level, that kind of stuff. And he was on Netflix, and he came across the Redeem Team documentary. For those that aren't familiar with it, it's a sports documentary around the 2008 Athens, Greece Olympics, when the U.S. men's team bounced back, winning gold after in 2004 when they won bronze. So with that, we got into talking about this, and his name is Al, and he asked me, he said, Jack, if you remember the 2004 Olympics and the U.S. settling for bronze, how much blame do you put on LeBron? And if not all of it, who is to blame? And first of all, Al, thank you very much for your question. Can't wait to get into this. But for those that are curious, it is wildly popular and wildly known that the 2004 Olympics was an atrocity. Um, losing to, what was it, Argentina? They lost to Argentina in the semifinals by like 8 or 9 points. By like 8 or 9 points. I was gonna say 8 or 9 points. To miss out 8 points to miss out on the gold medal game. And going into that Olympics, I want to say the men's team was probably, gosh, I think they had won the last 6 gold medals. So it was looked at as, what in the heck is going on? And it became wildly popular with the popularity of LeBron worldwide, nationally, in the NBA, and everything like that, to criticize him. He was the reason he didn't show up and he didn't, play hard enough. And that's why we lost the gold medal. That's why we lost in the semifinals and didn't win the gold. What a lot of people don't know, and what a lot of casual fans do not know about the 2004 Olympics, was those Olympics were weeks, like a month, after LeBron James had just finished his rookie season. So, Al, I'm going to start off your answer with, as great as this guy was, he won Rookie of the Year. He was, the prodigy, the chosen one in Cleveland. But as great as he was the rookie on a team that, and we'll get into that, on a team that would have been the best of the U.S. Now, I'm not going to get into everything, and I'm not going to get into every single specific. I'm going to touch on some things that I think are going to help answer my question for you, Al. But for those that truly are curious, I urge you, go to Netflix, watch the Redeem Team documentary. It's a great documentary. If you're into sports, documentaries, that kind of stuff, you'll love it. But pretty much what it boils down to is, again, a little bit of pre answer to your actual answer. This team wasn't your typical loaded roster with all these NBA players. In 2004, Shaq didn't play. Shaq very well could have played. Kobe didn't play. Kobe very well could have played. Rasheed Wallace could have played. Rasheed Wallace could have played. Ben Wallace could have played. Kevin Garnett could have played. Paul Pierce could have played. Rajon Rondo could have played. Ray Allen could have played. There were so many of these vets that could have been on this team. But because those vets didn't want to play, and some of them, it sounds like, were kind of hurt. But in getting ready to answer your question, Al, I did do some research. Apparently, Larry Brown was the head coach of the 2004 Olympics. Apparently, before they announced him, it was between either him, because he just got off winning the NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons. So it was between either him or Phil Jackson. And apparently there was a report that Shaq was injured, but not severely injured. And he was quoted saying, if Phil Jackson is the coach, I'll play through the pain and go, and go worry about winning us a gold and then healing. Essentially alluding to essentially trying to get the committee, hey, give me the coach I want and I'll do it. Now, I didn't dig down a super big rabbit hole because, truthfully, I didn't really care. But it sounds like, given the state of the world and the nation, there were some of those guys that I lifted off, the Paul Pierces, Kevin Garnett's. I don't know who. But apparently, there were some guys that were legitimately injured. and couldn't have played. So they could have taken a spot on the roster, but they weren't going to play. So why would you fill it with that? And I don't know who, but apparently there were also some guys that didn't want to play because of the state of the world and how the world currently was looking at U.S. people and things like that. So because of that, there were some guys that just didn't want to go. So instead of saying, "Hey, I don't want to go," they fabricated or injuries or made injuries seem more serious than they were. So that's why. Let me get my info up for all you guys answering the question. So, um, because all those guys didn't go, that's why a 19-year-old LeBron James got asked to play. It's also why a 20-year-old Carmelo Anthony was asked to play. It's why a 21-year-old Emeka Okafor was asked to play, and a 22-year-old Dwayne Wade asked to play. So don't get me wrong. Some of these young guys on this roster end up being very successful and wildly accomplished NBA players. But you have to understand one thing about what I just said. LeBron, Carmelo, and Dwayne Wade were literally coming off their rookie years. Like their rookie years in the NBA. So they were young guys. So regardless of how good they were, there were better guys that they could have gotten. Like, as much as I love LeBron James, in 2004, I probably would have had Kobe over him. I probably would have rather taken KG over him. I definitely would have taken Shaq over him. I probably would have taken Rasheed Wallace, um, and or Ben Wallace over LeBron James because at the time they were proven a lot more. They had more seasons, they had championships, they had all this stuff going for them and were more accomplished than these young guys were for. So I'm going to give you your answer now, Al, and I will then explain a little bit why I say this. I wouldn't place the blame at all on LeBron James. One, because he was young. One, because he was young. Two, because it's just, I think what you're doing is you're taking a look at this roster and saying who is currently, who and back then, who is the biggest name on this? And at the time, even though he won Rookie of the Year, he was one of the biggest names on this. Even though Allen Iverson was on the team, even though Tim Duncan was on the team, even though Stephon Marbury, Sean Marion, and Lamar Odom were on this team, he was still one of the biggest names. So it's an easy scapegoat. But the biggest reason I would not place any of this blame on LeBron James is because he didn't play. What do you mean by that, Jack? Well, what do you mean by that, Jack? Well, let me tell you. This these are LeBron James stats over the eight um the eight spit it out, Jack. The 8 Olympic games played. LeBron James averaged 11 and a half minutes played. On those 11 and a half minutes played, he averaged 5.4 points, 1.6 assists, one steal. No, yeah, one steal and one total rebound. Let me paint you a little picture here. Only Emeka Okafor, 7 minutes a game. Amari Stoudemire, 6.8 minutes a game. And Carmelo Anthony, 6.7 minutes a game. Only 3 players average less minutes than him. You want to know who played a shit ton of minutes? Allen Iverson, 27.1 points per game, or minutes per game. Stephon Marbury, 26.4. Tim Duncan, 25.9. So I think to say this was the best the US had to offer is ridiculous. As much as I want to make another thing very clear here in in answering this question and kind of going at this team a little bit here. I always loved Allen Iverson. I always loved Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, in my opinion, will go down as one of the most humble all-stars ever to play the game of basketball. Like, he retired quietly. He never had issues with anybody. He just kind of stuck to his game and freaking won what, 5 NBA championships. It was a great guy. So, I'm sorry. So, I think a couple things. I think looking at this team, you have to be honest that this wasn't the best team that we could have assembled. But I think to answer your question, Al, talking about who's to blame for this, I think there is one solo person that deserves half of the blame, and half of the blame, and then a group of people that deserve the other blame. The first group is between 50%, give it equally to Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Tim Duncan. Okay? AI and Tim Duncan were the captains of this team. Captains in sports are just like captains on ships. You go up with the ship and you go down with the ship and you ride the ship up. Like, I didn't really go back, but if Allen Iverson and Tim Duncan were the guys I think they were probably taking the blame and saying, "This is on me. We're the leaders of this team. We should have played better. This team is capable of winning gold," all that kind of stuff. And regardless of if they said that or not, I'm sure the media ran with, "Oh, LeBron didn't do anything." Because let me show you this. I mean, again, this is a guy that averaged 11.5 minutes a game. So let's take a look at this Argentina game that they lost. Okay. LeBron James played 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, he took one shot. That was a 3-pointer. He made it. And he had 1 assist and 1 rebound. So in the integral game that is in question, in the integral game that, oh, screw LeBron, he hardly saw the floor. Him and Amari Stoudemire combined for 5 minutes in that game. So it is beyond me why you would blame someone that hardly even saw the floor in this specific game, but just in general. And don't get me wrong, I am a LeBron fan, but I'm always pretty quick to, dude, you gotta shut up. Like, don't dig yourself a hole. Like, he does some stupid stuff, but he's a very talented player. But to blame him for this 2000 and for bronze medal is just wrong, Al. And I will give you one more reason why that is the case. If you go and look at our huge win against Agnolia, 89-53, LeBron played 27 minutes. He was a perfect 5 from 5, 5 for 5 from the floor with a 1 for 1 from 3-point range, 2 steals, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 block. That seems like a pretty fucking great stat line. So if you put LeBron in that Argentina game, if Larry Brown played these young guys that he wanted on his team so badly, maybe it would have happened. And it's worth noting in this game too, only Duncan finished with more points, 15. And then it's beyond me. Even if you go to the game that they won, they beat Lithuania. LeBron only saw 7 minutes on the floor. 3 for 5 from the floor, 0 for 2 from 3, 6 points, 2 steals, 2 assists. Not a bad stat line for a guy that saw the floor for 7 minutes. So, I think you look at this, and I think the first thing, like I said, recapping everything for you, all the fans, and specifically Al too for asking. Thank you very much. You have to be honest with yourself and acknowledge this was not the best team that we could have assembled. As great of a rookie season as LeBron had, there should have been guys like KG, Shaq, even playing Shaq 5-6 minutes a game. That dude's gonna get you 10, 12 points. Like, there were better players we could have been playing and we didn't. So with that, 50% of this has got to be on Larry Brown. If you look at his track record, other than his 2 years with the Detroit Pistons, he did great with those two teams and he won a championship with it. Other than those 2 years, dude was an average, no more than an average coach. So my guess was this was maybe the NBA and USA Basketball is trying to, get Larry Brown to kind of in that upper echelon, and it just backfired because he couldn't put the right roster together and the right guys together to win. Now, the other part, and again, this isn't me shitting on Tim Duncan, shitting on Allen Iverson or Stephon Marbury. I used to love those guys. Stephon Marbury was my boy. He used to play for the Wolves. But as the leaders, as the veterans of this team, you got to take onus. I mean, again, like, stats don't lie, ball don't lie. Like, you hear that term so many times in basketball. And in this game against Argentina, Allen Iverson played for 31 minutes. He shot 3 for 12 from the floor. And only and 3-point shooting wasn't a big thing. He was 1 for 2. 3 for 12. Dude shot 25% from the field, had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 turnovers, and 10 points. Stephon Marbury, Tim Duncan, both had 3 turnovers. Sean Marion shot 440% from the floor, just like Richard Jefferson. Dwayne Wade was 1 of 8. So, I mean, shit, you look at this game, Dwayne Wade should be more to blame for this, shittiness of a game, missing 7 shots, than LeBron James should be for going 1 for 1 in his 3 minutes. So, again, and I'm going to end this with, I've said this before on the podcast, and I like doing it for fun with you guys and, answering your questions, but I hate playing the shoulda, coulda, woulda game, and I hate playing the blame game because I just feel dirty doing it. But at the same time, if something doesn't go your way, you have to know, the facts of it. So even though I'm not one for passing the buck and blaming somebody specifically for this, if you're going to, it's got to start with Larry Brown. And then after that, it's got to trickle down to AI and Tim Duncan, specifically because they're the captains. And then maybe a little bit, like I said, to Marbury or Sean Marion, because they were, also considered veterans on that team too. So it's really unfortunate that it happened, obviously. And on Saturday, the men's team will have an opportunity to win their 5th straight gold medal game. It is worth noting that after this bronze finish, the U.S. men's team has only 1 gold. So they won gold in 08, 12, 16, 20, and then with a win over France on Saturday, would give them 5 in a row. That's what we got wrapping up the Olympics for you. That's my answer for you, Al. I hope you and all the fans enjoyed listening to my rant on that a little bit. And again, lastly, I promise this will be the last thing. This isn't me saying that LeBron can't do any wrong. Don't get me wrong. Shouldn't have made his decision to go to Miami the way he did. Didn't have to go on national television. Didn't have to do that. And by the way, LeBron deserves far more blame for the 2011 collapse against the Mavericks than the 2004 Olympics. And if you were to tell me, hey, okay, you have 100% blame to give LeBron James, how much percent do you want to give him for 2011? How much do you want to give him for the Olympics? 100% on the finals, 0 on the Olympics. Olympics straightly wasn't his fault. Scoring 8 points, as great as Dirk Nowitzki was, 2011, 12, 13, 14, he was the best player on planet Earth. And he only won 2 of those. Now, granted, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. 14, he had some aging stars. But 2011, that team should have 3-peated. that team should have three-peated, and that's on LeBron. But yeah. So yeah, that's what we got for you guys. And then so yeah, that kind of goes into, our pro sports a little bit here. It's crazy. I was talking to a couple other coworkers. This time has really flown by. Not only we talked about, I was like, gosh, it's pretty exciting and pretty fun that we're within 20 or within a month of the NFL season. And my coworker I was talking with was like, you think that's crazy? We're within 2 months of the NHL season. Like, that just crept up on me. And then I checked today, 75 days away from the NBA season. Now, don't get too excited. With the Olympics going on, they haven't released the schedule. There's just, if you go to NBA.com, for each year, they have like important dates, and they already have October 22nd set up as the first day of the season. They just haven't announced who's going to be playing. Obviously, one of the first games on the 22nd will be Boston playing somebody to raise their banner and all that fun stuff. But crazy how fast time flies. So yeah, with that, I'm kind of glad we did it the way we did, because there's not really any news to report on as far as the Timberwolves are concerned. Coming into the stats won't load for whatever reason, but coming into the game with Serbia, Anthony Edwards was leading the team. He was leading Team USA in points per game with 17.5, with the Slim Reaper Kevin Durant right behind him at 16.5. So that's pretty exciting for us Timberwolves fans. That's pretty exciting. I'm excited to see what our season looks like, who we're playing when, if it'll be easy, kind of, if we'll have something of an easy schedule at the beginning and middle. So it'll be fun. But needless to say, I would guess for sure by the start of the NFL season, I would guess with the Olympics wrapping up on Saturday, I would say we'll probably see the schedule release come out. The schedule release will come out before we have our football preview for you guys on the 28th. It'll come out before then. So yeah, other than that, not a whole lot more to talk about. Not really any new news on the Vikings, except for good news on, some of our rookies looking well in camp. JJ is apparently looking awesome. Darnold's looking great. Aaron Jones is looking healthy and well. Hawkinson, it sounds like, is ahead of schedule. Jordan Addison looks amazing. So yeah, we'll answer these next two questions for you, and then skedaddle for the night from you guys. So the first question is from Gabe, and he's wondering, what's the status of Jordan Addison? So he's been formally charged with DUI in the state of California. It looked like his court date is October 3rd or something like that. 3rd or something like that, which means that we will have him for at least the first, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least the first 4 games, because what is probably going to happen, I'm doubting he goes to the court date and it gets thrown out, or that he's not charged or something like that, which means if the charge upholds, he's probably going to be suspended for at least a couple games this season. I would guess a minimum of 2, probably no more than, it'll probably be somewhere between 2 and 5, I would guess. The nice thing is, once you get to week 8, from week 8, October 24th, the LA game, until the 29th, I'm really not all that worried about our schedule. Which, you know what, I have bigger predictions coming for you guys, and bold predictions coming for you guys. I will drop this little nugget for you tonight, though. There are 3 teams on our schedule right now that in 2025 will be picking in the top 5. Not going to tell you who they are, but stay tuned. And yeah, you can find out. So yeah, that's kind of the state, Gabe, of what's going on with Jordan Addison. I would guess, again, being out 5 games, that would put him at 12. Being out 2 games, that would put him at a maximum of 15 games. And if I'm being completely honest, those first couple games, San Francisco, Houston, Green Bay, even New York, you want them for so that there's more options, and you can't just stick to Hawkinson or JJ. And then Detroit. But then after, once you get to week 8 through a 16, there's a little bit of leeway for without somebody, that's the time to be without them, because the competition is just going to be a lot lighter. And then where did I put the second question? Maybe that was the only one. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys tonight. As a reminder, things coming up, we will be posting about this on social media, so just keep following along with that. But once again, weekly podcast tomorrow or next week, the 15th, we'll have a guest going over some questions and topics, so send them over our way. The 22nd, we're working to get that interview set up, and then starting the 28th, that'll start podcasts on Wednesday, and that will be the 2024 football preview, as well as the first live streamed mini weekend episode. So stay tuned. Lots of super fun, super cool things happening. Once again, we still will be doing pick'ems by the next podcast. I will make sure to start that. So we'll still be doing that for merch this year. And then we're going to do the first touchdown challenge as well. So stay tuned. Like I said, lots of fun things going on. And remember, I will leave you guys with this podcast about you guys, the listeners. If you guys have a topic you want me to address or a question you want me to answer, please reach out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or by emailing us. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram handles are at Mini Weekend, and email is miniweekend@gmail.com. That's MINNYWEEKEND@gmail.com. And be sure to let us know if you'd like to stay anonymous with your questions as well. Also, find us and give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter, where there are giveaways and you can stay up to date on all things Mini Weekend. And lastly, hit that subscribe button up here and wherever you listen to your podcasts on to get notified of the new episode as soon as it comes out. Until next time, Mini.